Hi. So, welcome to this podcast session, which is aimed at clearing the air with regard to the confusion that is prevailing in the minds of students and parents in regards to Canada as an ideal destination for higher studies. So, we have two lovely souls here to impart awareness about what the reality is. We have Mr. Kevin Weaver, who's the president of Georgian College, which is one of the prestigious, very popular community colleges in Canada. We also have Stephanie, who's the international director of Georgian College, to help you with your concerns around, is Canada still a good destination for higher studies, for jobs, as well as immigration prospects. So welcome both of you. Really, really happy to have you here in Cochin with us to attend this podcast session.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes. I'm sure you are aware of the current scenario. There's so much of confusion prevailing in the minds of the students. I think social media is doing a lot of damage because of the misinformation. Students are obsessed with a lot of negative information which is being spread on social media, and they're forming their perceptions and opinions based on this information that they're getting from social media. So, do you think Canada is still an ideal destination for the students from India?
Yes, absolutely. 100% I do. Canada's built on immigration. Canada's been a multicultural country since inception. We continue to be welcoming, friendly. The job market actually has never been better in Canada right now. So there's so many reasons that Canada is still a top destination. Safety, openness, diversity, a democratic government process, job market, quality institutions like Georgian College. So I think it's a good time for students, and I know there's a lot of noise, and I think the challenge is for students and parents is to kind of break through that noise and engage with those that know what's happening in Canada, and they'll see that the prospects are really, really good.
Absolutely. I think one important thing that students are eager to know is, how is the current job market? Could you throw light on the skill shortage that exists in the country so that they can look at taking up programs which aligns with the skill shortage?
The population at large is actually aging. And for the first time this year, Canada as a country since Confederation will actually shrink in population by about 200,000 people. At the same time, the need for trained workforce has actually never been higher. So if you look at healthcare, if you look at STEM, if you look at skilled trades, if you look at sectors like automotive, and then you look at technologies, computer programming, game design, AI, etc., the job market is hot all over the place, including across the country. But if you narrow into Ontario needs hundreds of thousands of workers over the next 10 years. And you look at things like skilled trades. 1 in 6 new jobs will be skilled trades. Healthcare, shortages of 30,000 healthcare professionals in the province. So there are tremendous...
It appears that students are missing out on this data.
Yeah, tremendous prospects for jobs.
Another thing which has probably confused the students as well as parents is the flurry of policy changes that the Canadian government has been announcing in recent times. So I think it is not being perceived in the right light. So if you could throw light on what have been these policy changes and why have these policy changes been implemented, I'm sure students are generally, both parents and students would need to have, this is one area which lacks clarity.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of change, and I know that's part of the problem. When you have change upon change upon change, it creates uncertainty and chaos. But rest assured, and I think what's really important for students to know, these changes are all about bringing numbers in alignment with housing, with affordability, with the job market in Canada. And it's now a very focused approach to international students coming to Canada in programs that have very high labor market need. And so when you have jobs on the other end, and you're coming to programs that have the appropriate skill sets, and Georgian offers several of those programs that align with the labor market, it actually makes for a pretty good formula. Now is a good time.
Would be nice if you could throw light on what exactly are these changes that have been announced by the government.
So the ultimate goal was to reduce the overall numbers across Canada. The numbers were up over 500,000 international students per year, and they wanted to bring that down under 400,000. And so that was the first large change. So it was really about caps. And then there was a series of other changes around temporary foreign workers, some PR changes, spousal changes, etc. For the college sector, there were some changes that really highlighted certain programs related to labor market need. And so there are more restrictions on the college sector than the university sector. But what that allows us to do is be able to focus the recruitment into those programs where we know across Canada there is labor market need, and there's long-term labor market need. These are not sectors that have short-term 1 year, 2 year. These are 5, 10, 15, 20-year projections of labor shortages. And so the prospects for employment after graduation are really strong.
So Kevin, one of the aspects that I would really appreciate if you could offer more clarity is there's been a spate of communication from the Canadian government in regards to international students, a flurry of policy changes in recent times, which has sent confused messages, rather ambiguous messages to the students and parents who have been looking at Canada as an option for their higher studies. So I would appreciate if you could offer more clarity around these changes that have been announced by the government, the kind of changes that the government has implemented. I think the message is getting lost that it is in the best interest of the students that these changes have been implemented. So if you could offer more clarity around this.
It's a great point, and it's true. It is in the interest of the students. So one of the major changes, certainly for colleges across Canada like Georgian, is that the postgraduate work permit, or the holdback, is really aligned to programs that have a need and a direct line to the labor market. And that really is fundamental, I think, for prospective students and their parents to understand that these programs have good job prospects. There is, with the postgraduate work permit, there's great employability. And Georgian is, we've been proud to have one of the highest employment rates in all of Ontario. We've been over the average for 25 years. We're typically in the top percentile at 90.3% of our graduates employed within 6 months. So when you put those two things together, this actually is really good news for students.
Stephanie, don't you think every time a new announcement is made by the Canadian government, every time people realize a new change is coming, it is often perceived as a disruptor? Don't you think they're missing out on the fact that this change is being made to streamline things and that it is a harbinger of good things to come?
That's exactly right. I think what we want to do today is remind parents and students and people making decisions about coming to Canada that Canada continues to have immigration through education, which is the strongest path. This is still there. It's still an important part of our immigration experience. And as you say, it is now more refined. And so actually there's a measure of certainty in this disruptive time where, in fact, students now can look at the program choice as an actual career path. Whereas before there was a level of uncertainty within that. So I do agree with you. This is probably one of the best times for students to come to Canada.
Absolutely. I can't agree more, because the changes have been implemented in such a way that they can proceed to Canada, they can embark on a course with crystal clear clarity on the fact that they're going for a course which is aligning with the shortage occupation list of the country. So they can definitely go with more certainty regarding their careers, regarding their immigration prospects too, unlike the past. Considering all these changes, what do you think students need to be factoring in at this stage before they embark on their studies in Canada?
I would like to share from my experience. I mean, I've been working with international students for over 15 years. And I think one of the things that students often don't pay attention to enough is their own role in picking the program. I've seen a lot of students relying on others to, they don't take a lot of active research. They're not looking at the careers. They're not looking, and I do see students showing up often unprepared.
That's a valid point.
So my message to students in this climate is, please do your research on the job that you want, the future. Your program will get you there, but you as a student actually have a lot more agency, because I think something that really shocks students when they arrive is they have left their family, their friends, their networks, and they really are forging an entirely new path. And so a program choice, they need to be as involved at the beginning as possible. Do your research. Look at there's so much data now on the job market and the analysis that's been done. So to me, I've watched students for years, not really be as active in their program choice. They don't ask a lot of questions, but this is now that time to take a little bit more control over that.
You've understood our students really well, Stephanie, I should say that. It's more of a herd mentality for the students.
Yes.
Everybody is going to Canada, so let me also go to Canada. There seems to be a gold mine there.
Yeah.
So this is one area where I can't agree more in regards to the fact that, our students have to evolve in time, in regards to taking more well-researched and well-informed decision.
That's right.
So that they don't regret once they enroll for a course. Even when it comes to researching on the course content, the learning outcomes, career outcomes, setting their expectations in a more realistic manner.
That's right.
These are areas where our students have to evolve.
Yeah. And the resources are there like they've never been before. Through connecting out with the institution, with counselors, with alumni. We've introduced a new ambassador program where prospective students can talk to students who are currently in programs right now and find out what is it like to go to Georgian College? What is it like to live in Barrie or Owen Sound or Orangeville? And what are the job prospects? So I agree with Stephanie. I think there's just so much opportunity to access that information, and we have it readily available to help students make their ultimate decision.
I'm sure it's always been a culture shock for our students who are habituated to a different education system when they enroll for a education there. But I do understand the colleges are quite invested when it comes to support services. So it would be great if you can throw some light around the range of support services that the college offers to support them, be it for a part-time employment or a full-time employment, or to cope with the academic rigors.
Yeah, they're plenty. they're broad and they're deep, and because that's one of the things for Georgian College that we pride ourselves on, quality education and what we call an unrivaled student experience. And that means that we have wraparound supports for the students before they arrive at Georgian College, day one at Georgian College, and then every day from that point on, even past convocation. We support our alumni for up to 2 years with career support. So we are there to see our students succeed and become graduates, and we're there to see our graduates succeed and find work in the sector that they ultimately studied. So we have supports from inside the classroom. We have expert faculty who are there to help students in any way they can. We have technology to help students, so students can also take an active role in their own supports. We have technology that has predictive analytics. It helps students understand that maybe I'm not doing as well in this course as I thought I was, and I'm on track maybe not to get the grade I thought, and it will give them tips and tricks on how to get back on track. We have peer mentoring, we have peer tutoring, we have math supports, English supports, a library commons, which is a great place to get help with almost anything. I mean, you name it, it's there. Career co-op support, we support our students with paid internships, with co-op, with placements. It really is designed to be, if students want help and they're willing to access it, the help is there and the support is there. I always share with students at orientation that Team Georgian has one goal, and I have one goal for them, and that's I want to shake their hand at convocation. And that's why we're here, and so we wrap around all those supports to make sure that can happen.
Stephanie, I would appreciate if you could just talk about some of those services that you think Indian students are not utilizing enough. Because it's been a constant grouse for many of the colleges and universities abroad that Indian students do not utilize many of the services which are offered on the campus.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So we heard from an alumni recently talking about our library and how that was one of his favorite places to go. So they had access for tutoring. He talked about APA. So his experience was that was not how they wrote essays in India. And he showed up in Canada. He's expected to write papers and submit in this whole new format. And he was always encouraging his peers, go into the library, go ask for help. And I think a lot of students are hesitant, they're shy, they don't want to do things independently. So you talked earlier about sort of this group think mentality. And so I think one of the hardest things that I've seen students coming from, and not just India, many countries in the world, where decision making is often done collectively, and they come onto our campuses and a lot of things are done in a more independent way. And so I see a lot of students not asking for help, not coming into the International Center as an example, because they're scared. And so, it is really challenging, but I'm glad we're doing this podcast because I hope future students are hearing this. You do need to come into these safe spaces and ask for help. We do have a lot of services. We have another one that's a favorite of mine. It's our laptop dispenser, where students can actually borrow laptops for the day. It looks like a big giant vending machine. And there are a ton of these types of resources. And I'm biased when I say this, but I think college is actually a really great place for international students to start their career. What I think a lot of students don't know is they can come to a college to do our diploma, advanced diploma, graduate certificates, and they can move on into other higher credentials if they choose. But I think college is a great, it's about hands-on learning, and it's about skills, and it's about community. That's really kind of the founding principles of a community college. So I actually feel that if an international student, any student really, is concerned about their ability to access help, they're worried about will they make new friends, are they going to fit in, college is probably a perfect step, whether they want to stay there or continue on, because I do see that over time and time again that they're not crossing the threshold of the office and asking the questions that they need to ask, and there's so much help out there for students. So I think a college environment is perfect for a new Canadian, a new future Canadian.
Yeah. That reminds me of another question, the difference between a university and a community college. There's always been a confusion in the mind of the student. Is a community college something inferior, or will I have better edge in the employment market if I go and study in a university? So I would really appreciate, Kevin, if you can throw some light around how the situation in Canada is. How is it being perceived by the Canadian studying in a university and studying in a community college?
Right. Yeah, they're two parallel systems, and what people don't necessarily realize is we actually work well together and we complement each other. So it really just depends on the end goal, and that's back to the earlier point that students really have to think about what their long-term career goals are and then find the right pathway. So we have students who go to university and then they come to Georgian College to refine their skills.
That's something that students do not know.
To get specialized skills. Yes, that happens for domestic and international students. And we have students, as Stephanie said, they come to Georgia and they might do a 2-year diploma and then move on to a university. I think what's really important is for colleges, we technically are more hands-on. We're typically more practical in our learning environment, but we also offer 4-year degrees. We have full 4-year honors bachelor degrees, and some of our degrees
more applied degrees.
Generally more applied. But if you look at nursing, the nursing degree at a community college in Ontario is exactly the same accreditation, same standards, same faculty requirements. Everything is exactly the same, and so. It's not about one system being inferior to the other. Both systems are needed. Both systems serve the purpose, but it really does come down to the student and what's the best fit for them and where are they looking to go in their career. The one thing I will share though is what we find is international students actually have a very strong graduation rate. International students are resilient. They will, as Stephanie said, they might come to us and they might be shy and afraid to ask those questions, but they will find their footing and they will get used to North American education system, and in our case, Ontario colleges, and learn how to navigate the system and get help. But we're very proud of that because our goal, as I said to you earlier, is when students come to us, and it's a huge decision, it's a huge investment. They're putting all their hopes and dreams into us at Georgian College when they come, and we take that seriously. So to see them succeed at very high rates That's what we're there for.
I think the smaller classrooms in the community colleges also,
Yeah.
it's
Smaller
offers a more
class,
intimate and supportive experience
more
in
personal.
comparison with the
Yes.
university classrooms where they sit in a large classroom with a large number of students. So
They can, yes.
that
they
really
can be
helps
much
for an
larger.
international student who is kickstarting
Yes.
their studies there.
Yeah, and get to know, one of the unique things. So I'm a graduate of both systems, university and the college system, so I can speak very closely to it. And you're right, the relationships with faculty and staff typically are much closer in a college. You're not, as we say, you're not just a number. And in fairness to some of the universities out there, they do have slightly smaller class size, but generally bigger than Ontario colleges. And so we do pride ourselves on that personal learning experience where every individual matters.
So I'm sure students are very eager to know about some of the rapidly evolving industries, sectors where there are a lot of jobs, where you foresee more opportunities arising in the coming years. So it would be great if you can share some insights around it.
Yeah, and I might start more broadly. I think it's important for future students to know there are really sort of 4 to 5 main industries that the government is focused on. And so this is information that's easily accessible. STEM, healthcare, agriculture, agri-food, transport, and trade. And so I think one of the messages that we hope your audience will hear today is that Canada needs new international graduates to fill some of these sectors. Our healthcare sector, in the next 5 to 10 years, they're expecting close to 300,000 people to retire. We need to fill that with new workers. In nursing alone, we're expecting a shortage of almost 50,000 nurses, 30,000 PSWs, where this is labor skilled shortage. This is why you see some of that refinement of our programming. Agriculture is one of the fastest growing industries in Ontario. STEM, AI, computer programming, database, game design, these are all areas that have measured shortages in the next 10 years. Could be up to 200,000 new jobs created in the province in the next 10 years. And so these are good indicators for students when they're making decisions. And we talked earlier about students taking a little bit more control over the programs that they're picking. Some of the work has been done for them because of the changes that the federal government has made. While they're perceived as negative, they are in fact positive. Disruptive, yes, but the end result is that they're sort of funneling themselves into these sort of main 4 to 5 employment categories where a student looking at coming to Canada can almost predict the type of opportunities that they're going to have. And so that's really important to remember, that there are key shortages in our labor force, sort of at a larger provincial level, of course across Canada, and then in our own backyard, in our catchment area.
Kevin, would you like to drill down on these broader categories? I'm sure Georgian College being one of those strongest co-op providers with a wide range of programs with paid internships options, with a strong careers and employability team, I'm sure you would be getting more insights and inputs regarding the areas where the occupations which are in high demand.
Yes, we stay very connected to our industry. In fact, that's what we pride ourselves on, is making sure that we're connecting with them regularly. I myself spend a lot of time with industry associations, Chamber of Commerce, always trying to keep a pulse on where the labor market's going at a macro level, but then also a regional level. And so, as Stephanie said, there are these major categories, but we're seeing it play out within the Georgian catchment. And if you look at our catchment area alone, for some of these areas like skilled trades, so I'll talk about skilled trades a little bit, the growth in our catchment area actually outpaces the growth in the province of Ontario.
Wow.
And even that growth is at 12%. So we don't have enough students or graduates in skilled trades to fill that.
That's brilliant stats.
But we are at 27% in our region. So we know that the jobs are there. And so there's a great opportunity. And Georgian offers skilled trades at several of our campuses. When you think of plumbing and welding, we have precision skills, we have hairstyling, we have carpentry, cabinet making. So a breadth and depth of skilled trades programming for students to choose. And the job market is really strong. The pay is really good.
Well, that's something that Indian students need more awareness about,
Right.
because these kind of trades courses are not perceived favorably given that status quo perspective that students have.
Right.
So it would be really nice if you can throw more light around the kind of pay packages they can expect soon after they complete their course. Because my experience recruiting students for these trade courses, they generally don't complain about a waiting period when it comes to getting a job. Most of them get employed soon after they complete the course, and they start with a high pay package.
Yes.
So I'm sure it would be very interesting for the students to know about the kind of pay package, and if you can do a comparison of pay packages for some other professionals when you compare it with the trades programs.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. Students don't have to wait long. In fact, most of our students will have jobs by the time they graduate when you're looking at a variety of programs, STEM, skilled trades, etc., which is the beauty of our relationships with industry and paid co-ops and internships. Those things always avail themselves. So that's number one. The second thing is, the pay is really good.
Can you
in
give some
Canada
indication of
for
the
skilled
salary?
trades. Well, you may start. It depends on the trade a little bit and where you start. But precision skills, you may start at $60,000 annual salary Canadian and work your way up. And I know several in the industry making over $100,000. But that's true of a lot of the skilled trades. The other thing students can do, and many of our graduates do, is with the postgrad work permit, they get hired by employers and then they send them through the apprenticeship stream. And with each apprenticeship, your pay just continues to go up. So some trades will be $30 to $35 an hour, up to $55 to $60 an hour. And again, as you become more experienced as a journey person is what it's called in Canada, you'll continue to make more and more money. So it's the jobs are plentiful, the opportunities and the options for graduates are plentiful, and they also have their ability at some point to start their own business. And so we see that out of the skilled trades too.
So there are entrepreneurial
Entrepreneurial,
pathways
yeah. You learn how to become an electrician, and at some point you realize,
You can
know what?
freelance too and
I
make
can
more money.
freelance, I can build my own company, and I can do this and make more money. So lots of opportunity in so many facets of skilled trades. And I think, again, it comes down to just looking at the labor market and then talking to counselors, talking to the institution, learning about what the program options are and what those pathways are after graduation.
I think another thing that students would be keen to know would be the current political scenario. Canada has always had the reputation for being politically and economically a very stable country, a country with a fundamentally strong economy. But given all that we read in the newspapers or what we see in the social media, do you think there's anything for the student to worry about, given the uncertainty with the party which is going to be in power in Canada? Do you think there is anything for the student to be worried about?
No, I don't. Canada's a stable democratic country. I mean, we will have a new prime minister in a very short period of time, and then we'll see what happens. But even with changing government, Canada's a pretty stable environment, a welcoming country. Economically, there is uncertainty in the global landscape on the economy around threat of tariffs, etc. But Canada's a resilient country. And in Ontario, as a province, I can tell you, we're already having those conversations around what happens if these tariffs get introduced, and there are changes in the workforce. And that's where colleges like Georgian actually play a big role, because what we do is we help reskill and upskill and launch new programs to ensure that students coming to Georgian are equipped for whatever change may be faced. So I wouldn't worry too much about all the noise that is out there. Canada remains a stable country.
That's merely political.
It's merely political, yes, and there's lots of noise in the global landscape. But I think focus on the career, focus on the end goal of coming to study. As Stephanie said, education is a pathway to immigration. Canada remains a very stable, a very welcoming, a very safe country.
And I think given a large retiring population, the economic reality is they would continue to need immigrants to sustain their industry and economy.
Yes, and I think I want to highlight again, talk to students. So we have as Kevin talked about, a lot of the investments that we've made in a digital transformation, if you will, of a lot of services. And one of the things that we've done is we've put online what we've calling the ambassador platform. And so we have students there now that are studying. And so as we are encouraging students to get past some of this noise, the best thing they can do is log in and talk to students that are currently studying at Georgian. And they will tell you, Canada is safe. Canada continues to be welcoming and inclusive. That is something that, it's embedded in the fabric of many of our communities. Barrie itself, there is, I think we were talking over 100 restaurants, so many diverse opportunities, so many culturally rich opportunities for students in our community. And so that all remains true. And I would encourage students to really get out there and find some genuine messaging from real students that are studying now. We've enabled that within our own digital experience.
Oh, I'm glad the college is facilitating that.
Yeah.
That
And
will
we need to.
definitely give them more confidence that it's absolutely safe and
It
fine.
is, and enjoyable.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Kevin and Stephanie, thank you so much. Your insights and inputs have been absolutely reassuring and encouraging. I'm sure students and parents would find this information very useful to take an effective decision. So in short, despite all the noise that you get to hear, be it political or the flurry of changes which has been announced by the Canadian government, it is very important that students realize that all these changes that are being implemented is in the best interest of any student who's making their plans to go to Canada. Thank you.